right, we are now live.
Okay. Let's go ahead and begin our council work session.
We'll adjust that volume.
Yeah. Say?
It wasn't loud enough outside, but it's too loud in here. We'll get it right. Sounds like, is that better? Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's meeting is a little bit different since it's the first meeting after a city council election, so we have an organizational meeting before the regular meeting. But I'll go over the consent agenda items, which there's only 3, so that won't take a second. And then I'll just talk about the organizational meeting. Then you're free to begin the regular meeting. So the items on the consent agenda, the first item is the minutes from your regular meeting on November the 4th. The second item is the minutes from your special meeting on October the 28th. This was obviously held before the November meeting, but we just didn't have the minutes ready in time for last month's approval. And then the third item is an item that came to us from the Public Works Committee, and it is a request for a 3-way stop sign at the intersection of Vesta Street and Summerfield Place. The Public Works Committee met on November the 14th and unanimously recommended approval of a 3-way stop there. And the background on this, you can see this intersection is outlined in red on the map. Summerfield Place is a street within the Belmont Reserve neighborhood, and it intersects with Vesta Street. And Belmont Reserve obviously is a tight neighborhood. There is a house built on the west side of the intersection there on Summerfield Place, and the driveway connects onto Vesta Street. And when a car is parked in the driveway, which is the right to do, it's not violating any rules, when a car is parked there, it's very hard to turn in or out of Belmont Reserve just because that car is blocking the sight triangle. And so the staff has been working with the resident there to try to figure out the best way to do it, and our police department recommended a 3-way stop sign be placed there. So we currently have a stop on Vesta before you pull, on Summerfield before you pull out onto Vesta. So if approved, then the recommendation is to put 2 stop signs at either approach on Vesta to make that a 3-way stop. We feel that will be a safer alternative. That way you have to stop whether that vehicle is there or not, just to make that turning motion safe. And so if approved, then we would put up the 2 stop signs and do a thermoplastic stop bar on the street there to make it visible. So the Public Works Committee did meet on November 14th and unanimously recommended approval of that. So those are the 3 items on the consent agenda. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer about the minutes or the stop sign.
Good.
And then for the organization meeting, the general statutes require that city councils or boards of commission approve a mayor pro tem and then a resolution adopting meeting minutes for the upcoming year.
Meeting schedule.
Excuse me. Yes, meeting schedule. And so for the way we've traditionally done the organization meeting, we've got Councilman Gadd here, so we will recognize him for his service. And then we will do the oath of office for Mayor Pro Tem Stowe and Councilman-elect Seelinger and Councilman-elect Heffernan. And then we'll call them Councilman Seelinger and Councilman Heffernan after that. So do the oath of office. And then item 2 on the organization meeting is the election of the Mayor Pro Tem. And then item 3 is the resolution establishing your regular meeting dates for next year. And that follows our pattern of the first Monday of every month, except for September, because the first Monday in September is Labor Day, so we'll just do it the first Tuesday in September. Still keep it our meeting time at 6:45. And then 4 is appointments to the city council members to your city council committees and various boards. I've included the roster of the current committee and board assignments for 2019 as a guide, as a reference. Obviously, we need to replace everywhere that says Councilman Folk and Councilman on that roster. And so that will conclude your organization meeting, and then after that, then go into the consent agenda and then the regular meeting items. So you you have any questions about the organization meeting or the consent agenda?
Good. All right. Very good. So we're going to administer the oaths.
Well,
So that's it for the work session. When you're ready to begin the regular meeting, we'll do the normal call to order invocation, and then we do have some introductions and recognitions within the police department.
Sure.
So we'll do that first, and then after we recognize the police department, then we'll do the organization meeting, beginning with Councilman Gadd.
So we need a motion to call a meeting.
Go ahead and have the meeting go to order.
just call.
Let's get the sign-up sheets for public comment first,
Yeah.
and then call the meeting to order.
Got a few folks signed up for that. Thank you, James. Okay. All right. Ready? Fine. Have a motion to,
We just call it to order.
all right, have a motion to call a meeting to order. Anybody?
So moved. Second.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Let's go ahead and do our invocation. Jim Hepburn's going to do that, and Martha's going to do our Pledge of Allegiance, okay?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we transition to a new city council, we ask for your blessings on the new members. We thank Ron Folk and Doug Gadd for their service, and keep them in mind as they move off of city council. And as the holiday season approaches, we thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed on the city of Belmont and its citizens, and we ask that you keep the city in your prayers as we have a fulfilling and successful holiday season for 2019 and head into 2020. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We got several recognitions and acknowledgements that we have.
Ask Chief Hawkins to come down and introduce the new police officers.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Chief. Chief Chad Hawkins is going to introduce some new police officers for us.
I actually have several items tonight. If I could have the command staff come in first. It's a little packed out there.
Hey, Joe.
Captain Pauls. Captain Pauls.
He's here somewhere. Probably trying to get through. Glad I am.
Yeah, it's a standing.
I say, Corky.
I want to make several introductions tonight. The first one, this is the current command staff of the Belmont Police Department. We've worked really hard to get to this point. You're looking at over 130 years of law enforcement experience right here, and I'm very proud of this group to lead our city. And we have a variety of experience. Lieutenant Todd Davis is our newest member. He actually spent 3 years with the, or 7 years, 3 years in the United States Navy. I'm about to get in trouble. He spent 7 years with the Craventon Police Department, just retired with 20 years with the North Carolina Highway Patrol, and he comes to us as a patrol lieutenant. We're happy to have him. On the other end is Captain Falls. He and Lieutenant Davis actually head up the patrol division, and Captain Quinn and Lieutenant Jason Davis, please do not confuse those two. They actually head up the administrative division, and of course I'm the chief and I have to keep up with all them, they have to keep up with me, I'm not sure. But anyway, we're very proud of this group right here, and our city is in great hands with the experience and the leadership that we have here. So I wanted to first introduce them with having Lieutenant Davis being new, so thank you guys. I'm going to have the sergeants come in. The newly promoted supervisor, I'm sorry, sergeants and corporals.
And the new corporal.
Hey.
We used to do like a formal kind of swearing-in ceremony, but our meetings get kind of lengthy when we do that. So I just want to introduce to you, I know everybody's anyway, I'm sorry. Sergeant Black recently promoted to sergeant. Sergeant Struve, he was recently promoted to sergeant here in the last few months. Hal Chastain promoted to corporal, and Officer Valverde promoted to corporal recently. So these are just two of actually four. Two of our sergeants and two of our corporals, which we have four of each on patrol. These guys have a lot of experience here, some of them laterals from other agencies, and some of them had prior military experience. So there's a lot of experience levels right here. We stole Sergeant Black from Kramer from Tempore. We will steal from another police agency. He had 13 years there, served as 9 years as a supervisor there, doing us a little while. Sergeant Stroop's been with us for about 15 years now. 16 and served as a corporal. And Chastain, he was an old mountain boy. We brought him back. He's originally from here, but he was in Cherokee County, and he lateraled here. Valverde had the luxury of teaching him in rookie school, and he actually came from the United States Navy as well. We won't hold that against him. I always called him a Marine earlier, so that's great. So we just wanted to introduce these guys to you. See their face out. You've probably seen them out some, so hopefully you won't see them behind you. But thank you. I just wanted to introduce them to you tonight. And then if I can have our new officers come in, and then I'll wrap this up here. We have a few new officers that started with us recently. I'll start with Officer Tommy Crosby. He has a lengthy law enforcement history. He was at the Gaston County Police forever. Now he does investigations at the bank. He is actually one of our reserve officers. He is very special. He works for us for free. So we love free work. He has a lot of law enforcement experience, and we appreciate that. Recently, we hired Officer Tony Cave. He has experience. He was a sergeant with the Stanley Police Department. Comes to us. He is also one of our instructors, which we'll talk about later in the program. Officer Trey Clinton, he comes to us from the city of Gastonia Police Department. I told you I'll make all the other agencies happy and take their folks. So they are just recently hired with us as officers here in the last 3-4 months or so. So we just want to, we usually do this in Nicholas, but we've had a lot of busy council meetings, so tonight we're going to get everybody in here and introduce a lot of our new staff and promoted staff. So we appreciate all the support of the community, and thank you guys.
And our police department does a great job. We appreciate y'all. Appreciate it. You betcha.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
All right. Ready?
So now we'll do the organizational meeting.
Pardon me?
Do the organizational meeting now.
That's right. Administer the oaths of office to the city council members.
Before we do that, let's recognize Councilman Gadd.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Doug?
We're going to amend the agenda.
Doug has served on our council for a number of years, and we'll really miss him because he's been a very, very big plus and positive to our council.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege being on council and working with all of you. Parks, I think you're an unsung hero. You do a boatload of work behind the scenes that no one even knows, and you've been truly great to work with and very valuable on this team. So I appreciate you greatly, and I hope the rest of the city recognizes what you do for us. To the new council members, best wishes. It was a great experience for me and a great learning experience, frankly, so I hope you get the same value out of it that I did. Martha, congratulations on continuing to serve. I think that's tremendous, that because you bring so much history about, decisions that were made previously, and I think that's very valuable, is valuable to me. Mayor, I can't think of a better ambassador for our town. It's clear you love this town, and I think they should rename the 6 degrees of separation game to 5 degrees, because you seem to know everybody. That's my name right here.
You know someone in Liechtenstein.
Yeah, exactly. Richard and Ryan, I wish you the best over your next 2 years, and I hope that you decide to continue to serve our town. I hope our town is also recognize what a great city manager that we have in Adrian. I had the opportunity to travel with Adrian and meet other city managers, and when I came back, I was like, we're lucky we got Adrian. So thank you. You do a great job for our city. To city staff, I really appreciated working with you, and I appreciate all the hard work you do behind the scenes, and I hope you think of me as an advocate of you as I leave council, because you do great things every day. And to the citizens, I appreciate the opportunity to serve for 4 years. It's been wonderful, and so I just want to say thank you, and God bless Belmont. Thank you.
I want to thank Nancy, too.
Awesome, thank you, that's awesome. We have a room that's not even black and white.
Dad, you got to find a place to hang it, too.
Oh, that'd be no problem. Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you.
If the new council people would
Come up here.
please come up front.
Jamie, do you need me to? No. I'm over here. Unless you want to come home. That's fine. You're looking at your Bible. Raise your right hand. I'm going to say I, and then you'll individually say your names. And at the end of the paragraph that I read, you say, I do swear. I,
Jim Heffernan,
do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as a council person, so help me God.
I do.
That's it. Congratulations. Come over here and sign these, please. I have a copy for us and a copy for you. After the consent agenda. You are now legal.
Or if you want your seat. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Next, we have election of a council member to serve as mayor pro tempore.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Heffron to that post.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, then we have the adoption of the resolution establishing regular meeting dates of the city of Belmont for our council year 2020.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve, we have a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so that is our meeting schedule for next year. Then we have a resolution to appoint elected officials to boards and committees for the year 2020. On page 11, we have a list of different council committee appointments. First being the Public Safety Committee. Now, Ron Folk and Doug Gadd and Martha were on that Public Safety Committee. We need to appoint 2 other people to serve on that committee. Is anybody interested in doing that?
Well, are you staying on there? Martha?
I'll be glad to. If
Okay.
somebody else would rather serve, that's fine.
I'll do it.
Got Mark?
Anybody else? I'm happy to serve there if nobody else is.
Anybody else?
I'm a big fan of public safety.
Ryan said no.
Ryan, you gonna do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right, next is the Public Works Committee. We have myself, Councilman Tripp, Stowe, and Turner. We all want to leave that the same?
I'm fine
Everybody good with that?
everybody is. I'd like to see a newer member hop on there if possible. They can take my spot.
I'll do it.
Okay, so switch.
To take your spot, okay, so you're gonna take that heifer in, okay? All right, Water and Sewer Committee, myself, Ron Folk, and Doug Gadd were on that committee. We need 2 people to serve on that committee in Water and Sewer. Any volunteers?
I can pick that up if nobody wants to do that.
All right,
I'll do it, too.
all right. Richard and Jim. Okay, Transportation Committee. Ron Folk, Martha, and Richard Turner were on that committee before. Ron's not with us, so we need to get a person to substitute on that Transportation Committee.
You interested, Mark?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Mark Seelinger, okay. All right, Central Iowa Council of Governments Board of Delegates. I was on that committee, and Doug was the alternate. Do we have an alternate on that committee that would like to serve? Central Iowa Council of Governments Board of Delegates. Who would like to serve on that committee?
Perhaps a staff member could attend in your absence. It's just a very challenging meeting to attend, I know.
Yeah, it is.
It's not local, the meeting, you find out last minute, and you have to drive like
It's in
far away, and it's in the
Northeast Charlotte.
evening, and so.
Central COG meeting.
No, that we could send a staff.
You send a staff member?
I'm not sure. I think it has to be an elected official.
I nominate Jim.
It's a good
This
board.
is the alternate position.
It's just an alternate.
It's a good board to serve on. It really is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
He's the new guy.
I trusted him.
Okay. Next, we have the Gaston, Cleveland, and Lincoln MPO. We got Councilman Turner and Councilmember Stowe is the alternate.
I'd be interested in actually serving this time if that's appropriate.
I'm okay with that.
You want to serve as a delegate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've been the alternate, I think, for 5 or 6 years now, so.
All right. Would anybody be interested in serving as the alternate, would you? Want to
I
continue?
would still have interest in being the delegate. I mean, as vice chair, I may have the opportunity to be chair next year.
Okay. You want to?
So you've got two people interested for one seat. Why don't we do all the other ones first and then come back to that?
All right, let's table that then, okay. All right, next is the Belmont Tourism Development Authority. Councilman Turner's on that, and Councilmember Schrift is on that.
Now, I wouldn't mind dropping that if somebody's interested in the tourism. Or if not, I can maintain it.
I think that we're moving in the right direction. I'd like to stay there for me.
Okay.
If anybody else wants to hop on that, it's a great board. Starting to get things done.
Anybody like to serve on the tourism board?
That's fine. I'll keep that if nobody has any interest in it.
So both of you going to be on that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same.
All right. Next is the Keep Belmont Beautiful Board of Directors.
My attendance this year wasn't great, so I don't think I'm giving them everything I can. So if somebody else would like to be that, I'm happy to be the alternate or support however I can, but I don't want to short staff them. And my schedule's not going to change this year coming, so. Is there anybody else interested in that board?
Would anybody like to serve on that board?
I could go back as our representative if that's.
We can just do it together as we can.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's do that, but let's try.
We'll just communicate better this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Personnel Committee, Stormwater Committee, Watershed Review Board. Mayor and the council's entire council's on that. Main Street Advisory Board.
I'd be interested in that.
Jim?
I'm interested in
Let's
that
serve
too, unless we're full.
Oh, now, Ron, you were on that before.
I am. I'm happy to defer to Mark if he wants to participate in that. I've been on there for a long time, and I also think they're moving in the right direction, so.
All right, so Mark, you want to serve on that?
Yeah, if Ryan's.
Main Street Advisory along with Jim, okay. All right, and then the Greater Gaston Development Corporation. Ryan, you were our chairperson on that, or person that represented us on that.
Happy to keep it unless there's strong wishes from somebody else.
That's the GGDC.
It is. It's not a very convenient meeting for anybody who doesn't live and work kind of in this downtown area, but if anybody else wants to do that, it's primarily around marketing development to come to Gaston County.
Yeah. Would anybody like to serve on that committee besides Ron? Ron's going to continue, okay. Very good. All right, that brings us back to the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO. All right, we had...
Well, Mayor, since we have consensus on everything else, you want to entertain a motion to approve everything except for the MPO, and then you can do that separately?
Sure.
I'll be willing to defer to Richard if you'll agree not to post anything on our city Facebook page that would negate what our staff people have put there, because that's a concern.
I'm not sure I'm
With regard to
following.
traffic. When the 485 and 85 crashes were, and we had some information put out there, and you put out some information, and it made it very difficult for people to understand what was happening. As the MPO representative, you got to be really aware of that. So if you'll agree to be very careful about that, I'll defer to you.
Well, I don't have any problem with agreeing to that. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay, we'll talk about it later, but it's a concern because a number of people from this, our constituents were concerned about it.
Yeah,
They'd have to relate with the article they put out. I knew there was some misunderstanding about what the MPO put out.
No.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely have to clear that up.
All right, so you'll
I
continue.
mean, how do we hold that standard? I mean, do we appoint him until something happens and then remove it? Is that your suggestion?
I don't know what's appropriate. I just am concerned.
I know what you're talking about, and he threw our staff under the bus and embarrassed them. He also said that we needed new leadership in transportation in the area as part of that. So if you're interested in the position, Martha, I support you to go ahead and take that on. I know you've attended the light rail meetings. You've gone above and beyond as far as communicating MPO issues to this council in other absences. So, but it's up to you guys. You guys can figure it out. I'm also concerned about communication. That's my primary concern around transportation issues is communication, and how we're being represented around that.
That being the case, we have two people interested in serving as chair people for that, so should we take a vote on that?
Well, you could do a vote on everything other than that and then do a separate vote on the MPO if that's what you choose.
Well, I think, did I not just agree with what Martha said about posting? I mean, I'll have to go back and look at it because I don't really recall.
Yeah.
I think then if that's the case, it's fine for you to stay, but I think we're going to have to be monitoring the situation because it's a concern.
You talk about disseminating information out there? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll defer in that case.
Everybody clear on what we're talking about?
So keep Councilman Turner as a delegate and Councilmember Stowe as the alternate.
Okay. I'm good with that. That's fine. Okay. All right. Very good.
Then I guess we need a motion to approve the whole slate. And I would so move.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. So everybody got their council positions in place, know what committees they're on, so write that down and be prepared, okay? All right. That brings us to the regular agenda, so we need a motion to go into a regular agenda.
To approve the consent agenda, Mayor.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
And
Consent agenda approved.
before we get our regular meeting, I had asked to speak mostly to our audience. I've been honored to serve as Mayor Pro Tem. As I rotate off this position, I have several comments. Please keep us in your thoughts as we attempt to work together as a council. Belmont has developed into a vibrant community with a positive image. We as a council have to carefully balance our freedom of speech with responsibility because we represent our constituents as well as ourselves individually. There have been situations that have occurred over the past several months that have been detrimental to that image. There's a social media site that is allowing people across the state, not just in Belmont, to make posts defaming individuals, negatively impact business, and indicating that this is not a good place to live. A candidate misrepresented comments made by 3 other candidates in our forum. A member also posted election voting advice to not vote for 2 sitting members, which is definitely unprofessional, and because of the damage to the professional relationship of this council as a whole, it makes it more difficult for us to deal with important issues. At our last meeting, we had a candidate and a member who tried to intimidate another member rather than following procedure by asking advice of our legal counsel. A council member indicated to staff members that they would lose jobs, told staff how to do their jobs, talked to staff about other staff, and posted comments on our city page to negate information our manager and clerk had posted for us. We have an outstanding staff who are the backbone of our organization, and we want to keep them. We have some members who do not want Belmont to continue to develop as a vibrant community. We need to be careful to make decisions that do not have unintentional consequences. We need to review our code of ethics and social media policies because they are not being followed by they are only being followed by the majority rather than the entire group. We will address many of these issues at our retreat in January. We want to continue to move forward in a positive way, and thank you for your attendance and support.
Thank you, Martha. All right. All right, do I hear a motion to go into the... Yeah, no, I got people signed up for public comment, but we have to make a motion to go into the agenda. Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to go into regular agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. I have several people signed up for public comment. I got David Marrow. When you come up to speak for public comment, you have 3 minutes to speak, okay? And state your name and your address when you come up to speak. So the first person we have is David Marrow, the second, I believe, on there.
You want me to go first? I'm senior. Yeah, he's senior, I'm junior, we're here for the same thing.
Sure, come on up.
I'll come stand with him.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go up to the microphone. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Pretty easy to identify.
State your name and address and which one?
I'm sorry.
The high-tech timekeeper over.
Thank you. David Mayer, I live at 310 East 6th Street, Belmont. I own 7210 Wilkerson Boulevard. Property y'all voted on demo it. I want the council to understand we've been through some difficult times. It's a third generation business down there. We bought it in 1982. I think there's been some miscommunications with Belmont. We'd like to get it cleared up. I had no insurance at the time of the fire, being the economy was like it was at the time. Did not plan on the building burning, but it happened. We got two buildings on the properties. A lot of people don't know we're still in business in the second building. Me and my son both work there. It supports both of us and his family. It was a total loss, the front building, September 2015. We hope to rebuild the building. If we cannot, we'll demo it. It's up to y'all. We asked them for an extension. We were given 90 days to demo or rebuild the building. It's hard to find a contractor that's not busy. Everybody was giving us a date of February, March, April. We called many, and at the last of the 90 days, we were told we could do it ourselves. And then the meeting come up, so we're here for that reason. How my time going?
Yeah, we've still got plenty of time.
Okay. Well, I'm third generation textile machinery builder. Belmont used to be a very heavy textile machinery.
Very much.
My son's fourth. The business, if we lose the property, we're out of business. We've furnished machinery for the furniture industry nowadays. Textiles are gone. One of my main customers is right outside that door. He was concerned enough to drive down from Hickory. Oh, I'm sorry, he moved. We build machinery with pride. It takes us a while, but we do what we consider some of the best machinery in the market. We just don't want to lose that. So we're asking for extension on time. If it doesn't go in our favor, you're going to shut us down. So I'm up here pleading for time, more time. If we can get 90 days, either to put a roof on or to demo the building, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor, this item will come up under item 5 on the regular agenda, so
Yes.
I would suggest that you listen to staff and then certainly invite them back up to ask questions and answer questions that you may have.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you going to talk?
You want to wait and talk until the item comes up?
I was just kind of add on to what he was saying there. Since I'm married, I have 4 kids. My wife is a stay-at-home mother because with 4 kids, daycare is outrageous, cheaper for her to stay home. So if something happens to that building, I'm out. There's no way I could go find a job and support 4 kids and a wife, and that's my livelihood. If something happens to that building, I'll probably be living back here by your dumpster with 4 kids. But just please, we'll do whatever we need to do to make it right.
Sure.
Just please. I'm knowing us to just kind of add into his a little bit, so.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming to us. Appreciate it.
I'll step back after you.
All right, next we have, there was a James Marrow. Was he speaking on the same?
Yes, all of them are the same.
Okay. All right, next person we have up is Abby. James is here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Name and your address in 3 minutes.
All right. My address is, 3017 River Chase Drive, Mount Holly. My brother and my dad run Automatic Carpeting right now. It's a small town business. I mean, Belmont started off of that. there's been some miscommunications in between Belmont and them. We would really love some more time to get this straightened out, maybe get our ducks in a row, and just not everything's cut and dry. Like we've been, I think we had 6 or 8, 12 contracts, something like that.
Probably more than that.
We understand it's been some time, but I mean it took. There was a machine shop that burnt an office, a parts room. It takes time to recover. I'm surprised and proud that they've made it through this. It takes a lot to pretty much start over. They were in the middle of a job when that burnt, and they still got the job out. But we'd like consideration on more time. It was.
Is business going better now?
It's starting to turn around. I mean, it's nothing like it was. Textiles is, like they said, it has died out. They don't do the, a lot of the older stuff we used to, pickers, openers, and cards. It's newer stuff. We go for a lot of the furniture industry, blowing the backs of pillows and cushions and stuff. But it's it's not a huge market, but I mean there's not a lot of us left. I know one time we got a call from way out of state, and they informed us that Dad was one of the last ones left that knew how to set up some of this machinery. I mean, just a lot of it didn't get passed down. Everybody got out of it and is going to newer technology. But it's hard to beat some of that old stuff.
Thank you.
Okay.
We thank you for your time, consideration.
Thank you very much for coming to us. All right. Next person we have signed up to speak is Abby Norris. Hey, Abby.
I'm one of those generation people.
Okay.
Talking on the same subject, my name's Abby Norris. I do live in Belmont. I'm at 109 Key Road. I think just starting out, Belmont is an amazing town. I was born and raised here. Alumni of South Point, still go to the Friday night football games. I chose to come back here to have my house and raise my children because of the community we have here. And I think my dad's business and this business is what makes this town. It's what makes that community so strong. It's why we can fill the stands tonight when Dad calls them and says, I need help. That community support you can't get somewhere else. They did give us 90 days to do the work, but it's 90 days of a small business asking for a lot of money, and you still got to put orders out during that time. And they did achieve a lot, although when you look at the building, you might not see that, but there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went in that building so far. Like, we lost everything that night when that fire happened.
Yeah.
And building it back, watching my father struggle and fight to keep it alive, I mean, it's an honor to watch that. But they have fought back and bought the machinery again and rebuilt that building from the ground up. And they have been working to get it done, but we've just run out of time. So if we could just have more time to get it, finish that last leg of it. We've almost got it, but now we're out of time.
Thank you, Abby.
Asking for that?
I appreciate that. Thank you. When did you graduate from South Point?
2011.
11, okay. All right, next person we have signed up to speak is Skip Graham.
Yes, indeed.
There he is.
All right. My name is Skip Graham. I have a business here at 24 North Main Street. I've been in business in this town for almost 30 years. I've known David and his family for quite some time, and I don't know all the details this evening or what's happened in the past, but I do know that they're good folks, and I do know that he's had some tough times with his building burning down and no insurance. I realize there's a time frame involved here, so all I'm asking for is maybe a little consideration. He's a good family man, and I know he's trying to do the right thing. So any consideration that you might give, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Skip. Appreciate that.
Can I have the floor for 30 more seconds and I'll get out of here?
Yeah, because you can use a little bit of time left over that we had.
Thank you, sir. Y'all might not can see it because you're in here. There's probably 30 to 40 people standing outside there just that came to give us support on this.
I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but there's a whole crowd of people came to.
Are they all signed up to speak?
No.
Just trying to get a pulse on the situation.
But just, thank y'all for letting us come up here and talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just as a point, because not all the audience is here, this particular part, we just listen. We're really not supposed to respond. We'll sort of talk about it at the time, at the agenda part.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next person we have signed up to speak is Kathy Gutkowski. There she is.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Gutkowski. I live at 2149 Southridge Drive, and I just wanted to say congratulations to Martha and Jim and Mark on a hard-fought election. I wish you all the luck in the world. I'll still be out there ranting about the apartment buildings, but I just want you to know it is not personal, and I wish you luck and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. All right. That concludes our public comment. Next, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, presentation of the audit for the City of Belmont's 2018-19 fiscal year.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Kelly Gooderman, is that right? Gooderham to come up, and you can or using the keyboard. Okay. Kelly's with Martin Stark and Associates, who's been the city's auditing firm for many years. So she's going to present the audit of financial statements for the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2019.
Yeah, let me make one comment before she gets started, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I was asked to mention again the angel tree. The BCO needs help with gifts and stuff like that for the angel tree. So if you get an opportunity on the tree outside, you have some tickets that are hanging there with small gifts for kids. If you can please help them out. We got a gift when you leave the meeting or whatever the case may be, that'd be great. Okay? Thank you.
All set?
All right. Didn't need to do that, but
No, that's all right.
I wanted to get that out.
We have prepared the following PowerPoint to present what we feel to be the more pertinent facts of the city's prior fiscal year. The city's report has been submitted to the LGC, although not yet approved. It has been issued with a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion we can give. We have been fortunate enough to work with the fine folks in the finance department who have been very helpful and cooperative during the whole audit process. A few audit highlights. General fund cash ended at $5.7 million, which included $4.1 million of unrestricted cash and $4.1 million of unrestricted cash and $1.5 million of restricted cash. General fund revenues ended at $13 million, and general fund expenditures ended at $13.5 million. This slide just shows a comparison of the general fund revenues and expenses. As you can see, revenues increased approximately $1.5 million over the prior year, or 13%, and expenses increased $1.3 million, or 11% over the prior year. This slide just shows a few of the fund balance classifications located in the city's audit report. First, you have your non-spendable, which is in your non-cash form, restricted, which is an external restriction, and then your committed and assigned, which are internal constraints, and then unassigned, which means no external or internal constraints. This slide just depicts how the LGC calculates your available fund balance. Your available fund balance is just a common calculation the LGC uses to compare units across the state, because as you may know, no city or town or county is the same across the state. So this is typically done just in the general fund. You start with your total fund balance, less your non-spendable, less your stabilization by state statute, to arrive at your available fund balance.
Remind me, how's the restricted in that calculation?
The stabilization by state statute?
Okay.
Did that answer?
Oh, is that where it is?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
This slide shows a 3-year comparison of your total fund balance within general fund. As you can see, general fund balance only increased around 57,000, or 1%, which is comparable to last year. And this slide just puts numbers to the previous slide for available fund balance. General fund balance ended at $5 million, less your non-spendable, which is usually inventory or prepaids, of $60,000, less your stabilization by state statute to arrive at your available fund balance within the general fund of $4.1 million, which was an overall increase of available fund balance alone of $432,000. One more. There we go. This is another calculation that LGC uses to compare units across the state. It's available fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and transfers within the general fund. And as you can see, the percentages are within 1% of the prior year, so comparable. The LGC recommends that roughly 8% equates to a month worth of expenditures. So just by this percentage alone, the city has almost 4 months worth of expenditures on hand. The next couple of slides just goes through the top 3 revenues and expenditures within the general fund. First, we have ad valorem tax revenues, which saw an increase from the prior year of roughly $1 million or 16%, which was due to the tax rate increase over the prior year. Then we have unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, which saw an increase of $285,000 or 9%, which was primarily due to an increase in your local option sales tax distribution from DOR. Then we have sales and services. This saw an increase of $625,000 or 449%, primarily due to the fact that there was a regrouping of an account that was in another line item that we found needed to actually go in this line item. So if you take that into account, it's actually a little bit more comparable than how it shows now, and also due to sale of surplus of property.
Can you get us that dated information on this to show the 17, 18, and 19?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay.
Next, we'll go over the general fund top 3 expenditures. First, we have public safety, which increased around $437,000 or 9%, which was primarily due to an increase in salary expenditures due to a salary study. Then we have transportation expenditures, which actually decreased around $22,000 or 8%, which is comparable. Then we have general government expenditures, which also decreased around $336,000 or 20%, which was primarily due to the closing of the school board account. Now we'll go over a little bit of the higher points of the water sewer fund. Total cash flow from operations ended at a positive $1.2 million. Total net position ended at $41.8 million. Your unrestricted, which is also included in your total net position, the equivalent to your unassigned fund balance within the general fund, at $10.6 million for an overall increase in your net position of $3.8 million, which was primarily due to an increase in customers and business development, as well as capital contributions of approximately $4.8 million of donated water lines that occur in the current year. This last slide just goes into a little bit of detail of the GASB 88 standard that was implemented in fiscal year 19. There's no financial impact. It's really just debt disclosures within your audit report. It goes into more detail of whether they should be classified as direct placements or direct borrowings. It adds disclosures for any assets pledged as collateral, as well as any remedies for events of default. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I guess I have one, just, you said the school board account closed, what was that?
It's 400,000.
400,000 for the school.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
A one-time expense.
Yes.
From the prior fiscal year. And Mayor, before Kelly finishes, I appreciate the work she's done. I want to thank Michelle for all her work, not only just with this audit, but all year, and particularly this summer. For those of you that don't know, so Michelle's basically a one-woman department. And this summer, she closed out the previous fiscal year, opened up the current fiscal year, changed our financial software, which is the first time we've done that in 20 years. So she's been here, I know she doesn't look it, but she's been here over 20 years. And so she's now on her second financial software. So she's been using the same thing since she got here. So she changed financial software and the payroll software, and we had a lot of staff turnover for unrelated reasons.
And an audit.
Yeah. And an audit. And she kept everything running, and she never complained at all. So I really appreciate all the work that she's done.
In your honest opinion, how do we stand as a city as far as our fiscal?
Well, it's a little tough to answer things like that because, like I said, there's no city in North Carolina that's like another city in North Carolina. But when you look at the numbers, it seems like you guys are doing, I don't want to give an opinion, you guys are pretty comparable to a healthier city.
Good, thank you.
And I will definitely get that information to you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions we have? None. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your hard work. And you too, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item we have is to consider the award of a contract for the water treatment plan renovations. Chuck.
Wait for Chuck to start this off.
Okay.
Apologize for not being prepared with that. Just as an intro, as you, some of y'all well know, in April of 2019, we went into a contract agreement with HDR to do some engineering and architectural work for the water plant. We're going to provide, this was to provide some lab space, some operation space, and some office space. As far back as 1993, we have been kind of gigged on our inspections, telling us that we needed to separate our operations and our laboratory. And because of the way everything was situated, it was kind of, we just didn't have the space. So we began at that time removing some pumps, trying to free up some space. And with that said, they completed the architectural work, they completed engineering. In early October, we put it out for bid. The bids came, no one, for the first bid, I think was on the 21st, and no one presented a bid. So as the North Carolina law statutes allow, we had to resubmit that bid, or republish that bid for 7 days. When we did that, we received 2 bids. With that, we had one bid of 1.4 million and 1.2 million. There's about 197,000 in between the two. The low bid was from a company that is currently doing work for us. We have had some trouble with them, some quality issues with them. So we decided to go out and look at the higher bid, the next higher bidder's qualifications. We have done that. We've looked at the qualifications. We went through all of their submittals of their. My mind just went blank. Qualifications and their references. Actually done a site visit to a comparable cost job, a $1.3 million job on Westinghouse Boulevard. And we do know that it was kind of extensive, and they finished that work in 10 weeks. They had a time frame of 12 weeks, and they finished it in 10 weeks. And I have no idea how they finished that. But with that said, we're recommending that you award the contract for the water plant project to Catalyst, and based on recommendations. And before we go any further, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Williams with HDR and let him show you what we plan to do real quickly.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Again, my name is Jonathan Williams. I work with HDR, an engineering and architecture company in Charlotte. We've been working with the city on designing upgrades to the work areas, the lab space and operations space for the water plant there in Belmont. Many of you hopefully already know that the Belmont water plant is over 100 years old. The last significant upgrade that was done on the work areas where the offices and that space is actually was done in about the mid-50s or so, I believe, is what I've been told. What I do know is other projects have been done to upgrade the actual treatment processes of the facility, but the lab space, operations space, work areas have not had any type of significant renovation since the 50s. So you're looking at electrical systems that are 60-plus years old. You're looking at HVAC systems that are also aging as well. So our company was hired to go in and look at architectural layouts as well as equipment, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical upgrades to the space. So what I want to do is actually walk you through kind of what the current space looks like and what we have envisioned the transformed space to look like. As Mr. Flowers mentions, North Carolina DEQ several times has noted to the city that they need to upgrade that part of the facility because currently their lab and operations facility are in the same room, and the state does not like that. They want those two areas separated. And so we've achieved that, as well as giving their staff additional office space with this potential renovation. So with that, you'll see here, this is a picture of the work area, the main admin part of the water treatment facility. One of the first big things that we're looking at doing is within the site outside. Currently, there is not ADA, Americans with Disability Act, accessible access into the building. And so with this project, we're actually going to be installing ramps and ADA accessible features that will bring the area up to ADA national standards and codes that will meet that requirement. This is the sole office that currently 2 staff members share within this facility. And so what you will see here is you will see the primary office space, and then you actually see over on the right-hand picture to the left, there's actually a storage closet area that has been converted into a work area. So what we are intending to do is convert the space to allow for two offices actually on the first floor. I'll show you that layout in a moment. This is the existing lab and operations area. This is the area that North Carolina DEQ wants separated. So what the intent of this project is to move the lab to where the current offices are and maintain the front of the building where the current lab and operations center is, actually convert that into solely the operations facility. That way the operators can see folks coming into the facility and that sort of thing from an operational standpoint. One of the other things we're looking to do is currently there is no really good meeting area in this facility for laydown of plans or just staff meetings, that sort of thing. Currently, there is an old chemical feed room that is being used as a meeting area, and we will be converting this into a larger work area. The city has already had concrete, you'll see there on the right-hand picture, that there are actually concrete steps. Those tubes that you see are actually old chemical feed equipment, and those have been removed. The concrete steps have been removed as well and opened that area up, and then it will be converted as part of this renovation and new finishes put in to convert that into better meeting space. This is an existing pump area room. It's kind of on the lower level of the facility. Right now, it houses the raw water line. There used to be pumps in there that have been abandoned. So this area really is unused. It's just kind of laid down for storage area. It is going to actually be converted. There's going to be a false floor put in there. There will still be access under that floor to the raw water line, but then this area will all be converted to office space and a restroom as well. So the office that you saw on the second floor is going to be moved to the first floor, and so that will all be office area there. Part of the reason for doing that is that then meets ADA accessibility for staff that you may have working there, because we've moved it, we've now provided ADA access into the facility so that it now provides that access, and so the area that's on the second floor does not have to be brought up to ADA compliant code. So this is a 3D rendering showing the upper second floor area that currently houses the current meeting room, the lab and operations, and the office space. So what you will see here in the back top right corner, you'll see that is the new meeting space that's been opened up. You'll see in the middle area there, that's the current office and storage area, which has now been converted into the lab, which is going to be moved into that area. And then up front there, to the bottom right-hand area, you'll see the operations room. The other thing we're going to be doing is upfitting a restroom that you'll see at the very bottom there. There's an existing restroom that's going to be upgraded with upgraded finishes in that area. So then if we move to the lower floor that I was just talking about a moment ago, where we're going to be adding those two offices, you will see we're adding a kitchenette area. You'll also see that we're adding those two offices, and then there will be an ADA accessible toilet on that floor as well, while still maintaining crawl space access underneath that floor to the raw water line. And there will be a hoist in case any of the equipment needs to be removed for that raw water line at any point in time. So with that, are there any questions about the layout, the reason for this project, and the need for it? If not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller.
Thank you. And so as Chuck mentioned, we had trouble finding contractors to bid on this project. It's a very competitive construction market. So of the two bids that we received, we would generally recommend, almost always recommend going with the low bidder. But the statutes don't require us to go with the low bidder if it's the lowest responsible bidder. This is a very complicated project because we're not only renovating the water treatment plant, we're also using it every day to operate, and we have a very small margin of error for something to go wrong at the water treatment plant. That's not the case with the Public Works project that we've had under construction for a year, where we vacated that building, turned it over to the contractor, and said now renovate it. But given our performance issues and concerns with the low bidder in this case, which I've explained in detail in emails for the senior members and kind of alluded to, I think, in the last 2 weeks to the new members, we are concerned that even though Momentum's bid is just under $200,000 less, we may spend more by going with the low bidder in terms of delay and change orders. So I did ask Chuck and Jonathan to follow up with references for Catalyst and to go visit some of the sites to make sure that they were comfortable with the work they had done. That all came back clean. So we are recommending that you award this contract to Catalyst Construction.
Adrian, the only question I have, given the scope of the work, do you think this is a reasonable bid? Because we've had trouble, of course, getting people. It's certainly a fairly large sum of money, but since we haven't done anything since the 50s, I don't have an issue with it, but are you comfortable with that bid?
I am. We estimated this would be around a $2 million project.
Okay.
And so this came in at 1.4. So we were, and that also includes a contingency of $225,000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does this satisfy all of the DEQ issues, or address a lot of them, or where are we with that?
It will address the specific issues that have been noted on each and every one of our annual inspections since 1993, yes, sir. And it's just, this has been on our CIP since we created the CIP, so everybody knows. It just kind of got pushed back. The priority was not as great, but if they keep putting it in, it's kind of like they've moved it up the scale, they moved it up the ladder, instead of it being one of the last things that was on their annual report. It's always one of the first things that's on.
You mean we finally got it done, huh?
Well, and they always ask for the CIP, and our CIP has numbers.
Yeah.
So they're getting kind of privy to those numbers, and they're asking what those numbers mean.
Yeah.
So when you have to tell them the truth, and you tell them how long it's been on there,
long time.
They just kind of, so it's just time.
And sort of as a follow-up to Kelly's presentation on the audit, when we were first dinged for this, we didn't have the money to fix this building, and so that was our answer for many years, is we understand it, it's on our list of things to get done, we'll do it when we have the money.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to decisions made by previous councils, we now have the money and the utility fund to do this project. So between Diener saying, or DEQ saying, okay, you've said you're going to do this, when you have the money, now you have the money, you need to do this. That's why it's been important.
Yeah, dealing with this is 3. I think you're comfortable with this now, right?
Yes.
Good.
What kind of timeline are we looking at for getting this done?
Probably looking, if we get started in, probably instead of January, instead of February, we're probably looking at the end of December, 1st of next January.
Okay.
Somewhere around 10 to 11 months. But there's not much that will hinder us in the weather delay, but you always have to factor that in there just in case.
Right.
So by the end of 2020.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Adrian, given the performance issues with the Public Works building, I mean, I would support your intention to go with the higher bidder. I mean, I think it's reasonable given the circumstances.
I obviously don't know, and perhaps this isn't the place to delve into those, but I do want to confirm whether with you or Chuck that you have investigated and you find Momentum not to be a responsible bidder in this. Is it based on their qualifications, experience, and resources?
Yes.
Is that your conclusion?
Yes, sir.
In my experience, I don't recall any recommendations ever not going to the lowest bidder in any situation. So is this the first in your experience?
Yes, definitely the first in my time.
I don't think this is not the norm.
Any other questions for Chuck? In that case, do we have a motion?
A motion we approve.
I'll
Motion
second.
to approve, got a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good, motion carries. Move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the one-year time extension request for a major development plan approval of Wilderness Neighborhood. And that's the one between Belmont and Bowen Drive, I think.
I would have thought everybody was here for the water treatment. Is that your uncle?
My parents.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
I thought you had some family local, but they're from Michigan. Right?
They're from Michigan. That's my parents, my godfather.
Very good.
Mark. Yep, it's my dad.
And he's Jim Wilson.
Oh, he's Jim.
He has a ramp, we can go down.
He's Jim also?
Yep.
Jim Jr.?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It was nice to be here.
God bless you, have a great trip.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Shelley.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
You bet.
So this is a request for a one-year time extension for the subdivision River Mess, and many of you sitting here tonight have been involved in one way or another on this project, the decision-making. So I wanted to start out with a brief overview of the history of this particular development. We looked back at the records and we found that development planning on this property actually started around 2005. However, it wasn't until January 2007 where a subdivision, which bears the name River Mess, was approved by the City Council in January 2007. It then received a one-year time extension by the City Council, which would have taken it to 2008. That, as you recall, there was a downturn in the economy, the recession, and the state legislature approved a Permit Extension Act, which extended all permits between 2008 to 2011. We were just coming out of the recession around 2011, and the state then again added another year. So that provided the original River Mist a viability to 2012. The applicant and property owner at that time went back to City Council and received two more one-year time extension. Therefore, it would expire in 2014. City staff notified the bank at some time in that recession time, the property reverted back to the bank, and we notified the bank that the development was going to expire. There was no time extension request received, therefore the approval lapsed. The bank then put together a development team that started working with staff, I believe the end of 2015, the beginning of 2016, on a new development, keeping the name River Mist. They took it through the process and it was approved in December of 2016. That was for an 86-lot residential subdivision. The City Council then granted a one-year time extension, which took it through in 2017, which would take it to 2018. The applicants did get the approval of their construction documents. However, based on our ordinance and state law, they are set to expire. They have a one-year life as well. So the applicants are here tonight to request a one-year time extension, and I'm going to provide you some information here. So overall, it was for an 86-lot single-family residential subdivision on 44 acres. The subject property is on South Point Road between Bellwood and Bowen Drive. Again, this is the second time extension request, and they're requesting this additional time to allow them to continue working with the railroad on their railroad crossing. They have changed, the railroad has changed their process in getting crossing agreements, and they are trying to work it out between the city and basically attorneys. So here's the subject property. As you can see, it's a very irregular shaped lot. Bellwood is to the north. To the south is Bowen Drive community. This is the approved development. Again, it was for 86 lots. Little review. They came in initially at 88. They revised their plans, and it was approved for 86 lots and all single-family dwellings. Just under 2 dwelling units per acre based on the zoning is GR, which allows 6 dwelling units to the acre. However, we placed the South Point Peninsula overlay on that property, so the maximum density of that property would be 3. Let's see, open space, have over 8 acres of open space, common areas, as well as 29% tree save area. Now, there's about 18 conditions that were tied to this approval. 3 of these are actually beyond the scope of our land development code, and they're related to providing a buffer on the back of lots between the Bellwood community as well as the Boeing community, Boeing Drive community. We asked for additional open space and tree preservation in a particular area next to a resident of Bellwood. And then we asked that, we conditioned it so they would not open the roadway connection to Bellwood Drive until the development was at least 90% built out or the city was ready to take over maintenance. Now, again, these are conditions that are beyond the scope of the Land Development Code. So the applicant's attorney is here tonight to provide additional information about this request. This request is supported by staff.
So I have one question.
Yes.
Would this trigger the traffic impact analysis as we have it now?
Yes and no. The reason I'm saying that is if it was to start over, we would ask that at minimum a technical memorandum be done, which is like a mini traffic study, because it's only 86 lots, which doesn't really meet our threshold for the amount of trips, but there's enough guidelines or ordinance flexibility where staff can ask for it. So we would, if this was to start over, we would ask for a technical memorandum. Now, would we get anything more in traffic improvements than we're already getting? They are working with NCDOT and they are required to provide a left turn lane into their community. So they have had extensive discussions with NCDOT, especially because the school is just up within a quarter mile or closer to this access point, so.
And this is by right?
This is by right, yes.
Thank you.
This is by right, and again, I think the extra conditions that we got on there are
It's
really
conditional
benefit.
use now, right?
No, it was by right, but at the time, yes, originally it's by right, it's still by right. But
They agreed.
yeah, they agreed to go beyond the scope of the land development code.
What was the by right houses in 2007 or 76?
That was the 77 lot subdivision. I'll do it.
I'll be very brief. My name is Roy Michaud. I'm a lawyer over in Charlotte, and I actually represent the lender on this project. The owner was to be in Wilmington tomorrow night, and they had a glitch in their notice requirements. So they had to move their meeting up one night, so he had to go to Wilmington. He's not here. They acquired this project in May of 2018 and then worked, I think, to get the development drawings finalized. I'm not completely versed on that, but I learned in August of this year that there was an issue with the railroad crossing. And we knew that we were not going to be able to work it out by December the 8th, which I believe is the deadline for the commencement of construction. They're all ready to go except for the detail of the railroad crossing. And it's not very onerous. As you all know, this line is rarely used. It's used about once a week to haul coal to the Allen plant. It's not a continual, everyday railroad line. And I'm trying to figure out the alternatives with the railroad, and Mr. Wilson and I have talked about the policy of the city, and we're just trying to figure out how to dovetail that and to get that worked out. That's the only detail that is left. They're ready to go. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
I do not know the entire history of this project, so if it's anything after about last August, I'm going to be lost. I'll just give you a heads up.
Well, I guess, if you can clarify how this came up in August, was it a change in the law or something? Because the railroad's obviously been there, so.
No, I think what happened is that there are other nearby crossings over the same track, and they were all worked out with the homeowners associations. And so it came as a surprise that this one might not be subject to the same situation, but the railroad has since changed its policy. And we're trying to work through that with them. And of course, the city has concerns about liability, and we're trying to address those. The one real problem that we saw is that there's a provision in the railroad agreement that calls for the city to do a potential grade change. And that was very alarming, because a grade change, that's not going to happen at this site, but of course you never know that.
Yeah.
But the railroad is concerned because if the property became zoned for something other than residential, and it was used for some sort of commercial use where they needed a trestle, a grade change across this track, then the city would have to pay for that, although the railroad would have to pay for 18% of it, which they don't want to do. So that's really not that's in real terms, that's not really an issue. That's not going to happen. And then the other issue, of course, with the city is the liability, and we'll try to address that with Mr. Wilson and see if we can get something worked out with the railroad to allow it to be done by a homeowners association, because they're perfectly willing to do that.
So basically what you're saying is we need a little time extension to get
That's
this
right.
agreement.
Just to figure out what the alternatives are.
What is the liability connection to the city?
Parks can address that, but they want insurance, and the developer's willing to step up and provide that, at least until the homeowners association can take it over.
So I will say, these people proceeded in good faith, but dealing with the railroad is hard. It takes forever.
It's tough.
And it's not on this project, I've dealt with them, and it's just our way or the highway. So they sent this ridiculous document down here for us to sign, and I wouldn't recommend it. There was multiple things I wouldn't bring even to the council, because they wanted us to provide liability insurance, take responsibility for everything about the track, stuff that was just unreasonable. So we asked that it be sent back and reduced in size
and
scope. And come back with something more reasonable that would allow us not to be the primary party standing behind this thing, because I wouldn't be able to recommend that. So they've been working on that, and there's been some progress made. I think at least the railroad has stated their willingness to entertain a modification to their policy.
Well, they might. I'm not completely clear on that. The engineer that we're working with is very cooperative.
Right.
And his superior has been out of town, I think, for about the last 3 weeks, so we just hadn't been able to get his attention. So that's
So they're working on it.
another
At this
reason.
point, I would not recommend the city's participation in this document that they asked us to participate in. So they've asked for extended time to try to work out a different document with the railroad. That's about it.
That's the objective.
Well, it sounds like
Thank
if
you.
we're not on the hook for liability, we certainly can understand a railroad situation with what we've dealt with just with the parking area.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't have a problem with it as long as we're staying out of the liability portion of it.
Sure. All right.
So is that something that come back before council?
Yes.
Well, that'd be in the case to have a motion to go ahead and approve the one-year extension. to
I'll make a
allow-
motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We appreciate the cooperation. Thank you.
Yeah, it makes sense to do that.
Thank you, Parks.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is consider the adoption of an ordinance ordering the demolition of the structure at 7212 Wilkinson Boulevard.
I jumped ahead. So, you heard a little bit about this during public comment. I'll introduce this item and turn it over to Chris Ray, our code enforcement officer. This is for the property at 7212 Wilson Boulevard, the automated car feeding business. The building caught fire in 2015. The city has been working with the property owner to try to get them to repair or demolish the building. As you'll recall, our ordinances didn't neatly fit the situation because this is commercial property. If this were residential property, it'd be under minimum housing. Chris would have had this taken care of several years ago. So it didn't fit neatly in our ordinances, so we sort of deferred to Gaston County building inspections. And because the building itself had been vacated and secured, it was deemed not to be in violation of the building code as long as it was secured and the public couldn't get into it and get hurt. So it just sort of sat there and it didn't really fit neatly, but as you'll see in Chris's presentation, it's not something we want on our front door in its current state. So Chris and staff worked on a new commercial property maintenance code, which the city council unanimously approved in July, that gives us the authority, and it's basically a commercial version of the minimum housing code. So Chris has followed that upon implementation for this one and the next item on your agenda to implement and enforce that commercial property maintenance code. And it has a lot of the same process requirements that the minimum housing code does. So Chris will get into the details of the process, but ultimately, Chris has done all he can as staff, so we bring it to the city council for what would be an ordinance to order the demolition of this property. But given some information some discussions that have occurred in the last day or two and what we've heard earlier, I'd like to perhaps change my recommendation on this, but I'd like for Chris to go through his presentation, and then certainly you've heard from the property owners. If you have additional questions from them, certainly we can have a conversation on that. But this is our first case under this new ordinance, so I want to make sure that we get it right and that we've given enough time for the property owner to do what they need to do to comply with the ordinance.
So this is 7212 Wilkinson Boulevard, it's an automated car feeder. Mr. Miller said that it burned in 2015. The county was contacted and they did their assessment, and they found that it poses no threat to anyone that comes in because nobody is allowed, it's not open to the public, and that it is secure. Well, I kept pushing county and kept pushing county, I kept getting the same answer. So that's why the ordinance was brought before council in July for the non-residential commercial buildings, and council approved that. How do you make this go? So this is just the front of the structure. Oh, this.
Side. Not the wheel.
Can you go back? Oh, well, sorry. Anyway, that's a picture of the inside where it had burned. If I could go back, that was just another picture of the, there's another picture of the inside.
Is there a roof on it, Chris?
It's, what you see is the roof. That's just a picture of the inside where it burned. So, right after council approved it, the ordinance, inspection was completed on that date, July 11. Our ordinance states that you have to have the hearing no sooner than 10 days, no greater than 30 days. That mimics our minimum housing code for single families. That was held August 15th. It was discussed at that hearing, both Mr. Morrow and his son was present at that hearing. It was discussed that they had 90 days to either repair or demolish, and the timetable started on that day. Their 90-day period ended November the 18th. A letter was sent out 3 days later stating that this would be brought before council on November, well, that was sent November 21st, and it was sent to them and explained to them that it would go before council for demolition tonight. We had had several conversations during this whole process. Anytime I asked for something, they provided it. We had good conversations. Nothing was ever derogatory. And that's why I'm here tonight, to present this, to get you all to vote, to vote on whether to extend their time or to demolish it.
Let me begin by asking the city manager, you indicated that you might change your recommendation on this. Are you so moved?
Yes, sir. So my recommendation in the packet is to ask you to approve the ordinance to require the demolition, and we just continue the enforcement process, in which case Chris would then, you would then authorize Chris to hire a demolition company to demolish the structure, remove it, seed it, straw it, and then we would send the bill to the property owner. And if the property owner doesn't pay the bill, we would put an assessment on the property. But in talking with Mr. Morrow earlier today, and with some communication between him and Chris over the last couple of days, they have hired a contractor to do the demolition work. Their preference is actually to repair it instead of demolishing, so they can reuse it. And I don't know how that works with the ordinance, if the cost of repair is more than the value. But nonetheless, they would like an opportunity to either repair it themselves or demolish it. Now, and I know there's extenuating circumstances in this case.
Yeah.
And I'm sure their preference is not to have the building in its current condition, sitting there for the last 4 years.
Right.
But, here we are, we're 4 years after the fire, and we have to have some action. It's either got to get repaired or it's got to get demolished. So, my recommendation is to defer action on the ordinance until your January meeting, and that gives them 34 days to get started on this work. They've had time to get this work started. Back to our discussion on the water plant, it's a tight construction market, and it's hard to find contractors and good contractors that you want to work on your property who are going to show up and do a good job. So I'm sympathetic to that, because we've experienced that with city projects. So 90 days is a reasonable time in our ordinance, but in this current market, 90 days may be tough to find the kind of contractor you want. So I would recommend that we defer action on the ordinance part of this to the January meeting, and let's see what progress we make, or what progress they make through December, recognizing that we have holidays and schedules are going to be tight. And if we're no farther along on January the 6th than we are today, then let's proceed with the ordinance. But if they've started either repair work, if they want to repair it, or the demolition work, then let's work with them and give them time. They said
I haven't seen the ordinance, but what would be, like, will all they need to do is sign a contract or start work, or what would stop the clock from running and cancel out the application of the ordinance?
So I would want to see the work beginning. So, I mean, they applied for a demolition permit. Now, our intent is compliance with the ordinance. So the ordinance is repair or demolish. And if the cost of repairs is less than 50% of the value of the property, then it really falls into the repair side of it. If it's more than 50% of the tax value of the property, then it's really demolition. It's not cost effective to repair. But I would want to see work actually started on this. And given that there's a month, but it's also, you've got a week or two of holidays in there, be a little flexible, get the work started, and then stay in communications with Chris, and let's reconvene in January, let's get a progress update, and then if there's a lot of work done and through the month of January, then report back at your February meeting, and let's see what's done. I think that's fair, but if no work is done and there's no progress being made, then we revert back to the ordinance and order the demolition.
Now, my understanding is there's another building on the property too that they have a business they're running out of. Is that correct?
That's what he said,
They indicated tonight, so.
Yeah.
So is 34 days going to be enough time to start work? Because I just don't want to get to January and then get this, kind of be back in the same situation, can't find a contractor, Christmas, New Year's.
Well, you found a contractor, is that correct?
I have. Belmont informed me I did put the roof on myself. The rafters or the trusses or 8-4 lumber has told me it's 3 to 4 weeks out. I'll give them a check. I'm ready to give them a check, let's get started. That'd be the first step, is the trusses.
Okay.
But they have applied for a demo permit.
So we're operating under the assumption of demolition because that's the way the ordinance is worded, because of the amount, the extent of the damage to the property. If they choose to repair it now instead of demolishing, that's even better. It's just that's going to be,
so it's
based on our evaluation, that's just more expensive.
It's sounding like if we grant this extension, you could get started like basically this week or sooner, I guess, or relatively soon.
I can order the trusses tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
So it is your intention to go ahead and repair the building?
I'm sorry, I don't get it.
It's your intention to go ahead and try to repair the building rather than demolish it?
If it needs to be demoed, I'll start with the demo.
Well, when you say it needs to be demoed, is there any...
Y'all's decision.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, has there been an assessment on the building as far as structural integrity?
Chris has looked at it.
Yeah, the walls are sound, it's just the roof.
Yeah, this property was originally a bakery some years ago. I don't remember what it was before that. It was before my time, but it was actually Sam's uncle's bakery. And so it doesn't look great, but I guess from the history of it, somebody thought it looked gold at one point. I don't have a problem waiting until February, because I'm not sure January is reasonable. So my preference would be to defer this to February, at my February meeting.
I would support that, because I don't know that time frame will really allow an assessment and a good judgment to be made. And as you said, it's been there 4 years. I mean, 60 more days isn't going to make or break anything, in my
They're
opinion.
making good faith efforts, it seems. Again, it's hard for me to say without having, but it seems like the intent of this is to deal with, properties that are abandoned or, there's nothing else that can be done. And the fact that they're, working through the process, and especially, this is our first case under this, I'm not sure this is the vehicle for us to exercise this authority at this point in time. So I concur with February, because I also agree with what Mark said, that I'm just not sure with the holidays and everything, we might just very well be in the same position we are today come January 7th or whatever our next meeting is. So I'd be in favor of February.
Do we need a motion to defer it then, Adrian, or we need?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to defer it to our February meeting.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Motion carries. Very good, gentlemen. Good luck.
And that meeting is February the 3rd, so Chris will be in touch with you.
February the 3rd, yeah.
Mr. Manager,
Yes.
one statement about that. I know it was brought up that the city said that you could do the work yourself.
Correct.
With that said, I would like for it to be on record that there are county code inspections that must pass that has nothing to do with Belmont.
Right, I talked to yes,
Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand that it has to be up to code.
Sure.
Brian
Ron Skibo.
Make sure that we
Ron
make
Skibo.
that clear to the group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thank you very much. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Best of luck to you. God bless you, and good luck with your project, okay?
Good luck.
Well, that was a fair decision that you made. I think that was good. All right. Next item on the agenda is consider the adoption of an ordinance ordering the demolition of the structure at 951 Cason Street in Belmont.
Okay, so this is the same ordeal with the automated card feeder. It's just an old cotton mill over on Cason Street in North Belmont.
That's one right across from Linford Park.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Yeah, we saw it at the opening of the park. Yeah.
And so, go ahead. I'm going to show you the pictures first, and then I'll say a couple things. This hadn't caught fire. This is wind and rain. I give up with this thing.
That's a hazard right there.
So that's a shot on the inside. Now we're not talking about wood. We're talking about steel now. And council needs to realize that when the city tears down one of these structures, that we're not talking about single-family homes anymore that are made of wood or brick or something. We're talking about steel. It's a lot more money. Oh, well. I don't know.
I don't think it's in your job description to have to use that. I'll cut you some slack.
Anyway. I talked to him previously this afternoon, and so he has made a down payment to a contractor that is going to start in 10 days.
All right.
There we are. That's the inside. He's made a down payment to a contractor. It's going to start in 10 days. He's going to tear the walls down. The steel in there, the frame for the roof, it's fine. It's the roof covering and the walls. So he's got insurance money. He's made a down payment to a company out of Charlotte. They're going to come in, they're going to take down a wall, build a wall. Take down a wall, build a wall. He advised me that they should be done mid-February. They take them about a month and a half to do the work that he's planning on doing. And so that's why we're here tonight again to either council to vote to demolish it or not.
Well, since we gave the other company till February, why don't we give them an opportunity to see if we can go ahead and get some stuff done in there and get the contractor going in there and maybe be fair with him too.
And I would certainly agree with that. And this is another one, I want to make sure that they're checking in regularly with you, because this has been going on, and this is a different situation than what you just heard. So if it's going to take them till the end of February, I certainly want to bring it back to the council in February, just to verify that they've started and they're making the progress and they're on the time frame that they've told Chris.
Unlike the one on Wilkinson, there are safety concerns here.
Well, it's right across the street from the playground.
A playground that we just invested a lot of money in.
Yeah.
And want people to go to and feel safe in, and not have kids wander across the street and into this.
Yes.
Well, I'll make a motion that we defer this to February too, with the idea we're looking at a progress report and making sure we are making a safe situation for the kids up there.
So I can require him, I'll have a conversation with him, I can require him to better barricade, because right now all he has is a yellow piece of caution tape.
Yeah, temporary fence.
Yeah, that would work as well.
Do you want to add that to your motion? Can we add that?
Yeah. So add a temporary fence or some type of safety structure. All right, do I get a second for that then?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I just mentioned on these projects, it sounds like good to knock these things down, but like we gotta front that money.
Right, that's
In
right.
both of these situations, they're paying for it, so we gotta be careful. I mean, it's good to push, but I mean,
And the
it's
question-
also better for them to handle their own issues versus us getting involved.
And as an attorney, you know, it's always well and good to get a judgment or a lien, you know, the question then always is, you got it, are you ever gonna see the money?
Exactly, so if we can get these guys to do it themselves, we're better off.
I won a $980,000 judgment once, and 15 years later, my client still hasn't seen any.
We do have demo quotes on both of these structures.
And this one is expensive, so I'm with Councilman Stripp.
What would it cost to knock this down?
My first quote was 180 grand, the second one was 220.
Wow.
Yeah, that's sunk money for a while.
Yeah.
I would much rather the property owner pay that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the ordinance gives us some leverage to motivate them to move forward, so I
It's
think
funny how
it's really just a
city
choice.
council meeting gets everybody's attention.
That's what we talked about today.
I bet.
Wait a minute.
I haven't heard from them in the last 90 days, and then today.
But wait a minute, we have one of Santa's elves with us here, can you get started?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, on that.
All right. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, Belmont Police Department interview update. Chief Hawkins?
Get to your...
Mayor, council, citizens. First thing I would like to do is have Bill Carroll and Tyler Graham come up here for just a minute. I apologize to them, I was going to introduce them earlier, but we had 5,000 people in here and I didn't even know what time it was. So, Bill Carroll and Tyler Graham. Bill has been with our police department now in our crime analysis and as a staff assistant for a year and a half. Tyler's been there for a while and he is our property and evidence. But recently, everyone knows we're going through the CLIA accreditation process, and these two guys just went and were certified as CLIA managers, which is a really big deal. So both of them just achieved that certification. And so I'm going to open the meeting with allowing Bill to give you an overview. I know we have a couple of new council members, some new folks in the audience, just to kind of give an overview of what CLIA is and what the Belmont Police Department's doing, and then we'll lead into some other.
Sure.
And this is Bill and that's Tyler.
Bill, Tyler. I know you're young, so you don't know how to do technology. Either press that or press that.
You bring it up on slide so I can blow it up and read it because it's all frame.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
You say your name and address, 3 minutes to speak.
I live in Belmont, so I know. No, but I'm just going to go over CLIA a little bit. Some of you should already be familiar with it. We've spoken about it. Chief Hawkins has spoken about it several times. But I want to give a brief update where we're at and how the process works, so you kind of have an idea of what we're doing over there in the police department. So the CLIA, what it stands for, is the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. So fancy word for they audit law enforcement agencies, right? They have a voting board that looks at standards, looks at your policies, your procedures, your training, and goes about it that way. So a couple of reasons why CLIA is important, why we decided at the police department, why the city decided to pursue it, is that it is the best practices for law enforcement agencies. Pretty simply stated, is going to make sure that we're the best we can be. We operate the best we can. It is a good management model for successful administration. So you saw the command staff earlier. So when you look at the command staff, it makes sure that succession planning, strategic planning, all that's in place for the future, and that, you know, if you hire a new chief, you hire whomever, that if they are under CLIA, they are accountable to you specifically, which is good. We want everybody to be accountable. It creates better trained personnel, so this, although we already had much of the training in place prior to going towards CLIA, it does have that model, so we know what training, the most current training, and we can meet those trends. It's a reduction of liability, risk, and exposure. So in other words, it's going to save the city money in the long run, because big lawsuits may come up. And actually at the CLIA conference, when Tyler and I went to it, we saw a bunch of presentations, but one presentation was a Miami-Dade, which is a department down in Miami County, and the city worked together there. They actually had a lawsuit where hundreds of millions of dollar lawsuit, and the judge specifically looked at their CLIA standing and said they follow best practices, therefore, this judgment went to the way of the city and found that the accuser was not right. So that's important, obviously. It's greater accountability to manager and council, as I mentioned before. It's going to make sure that the council and the manager, hopefully they know what's going on anyways, but they really know what's going on because we're meeting those CLIA standards. It is a demonstration of excellence. In other words, you get to have a nice plaque, you get to put the badge on your vehicles, and it shows the civilians, shows the citizens, and other police departments that we're the top of the top. And of course, finally, it's a huge support network and gives us abilities to look at other city policies in the police department, look at new trends, new emerging trends in politics, kind of lets the police department take a back seat from political conversation and let them decide as a third auditing body what is best. And there's numerous examples of that, but it's definitely saved a lot of departments, lawsuits, and problems. So there's that. And just an overview of the whole process and what the process looks like. So it's a 5-step process, and they are an independent auditing body. First step is enrollment. We have enrolled, so we are past that step. We are currently in self-assessment, and the self-assessment can last up to 36 months. We're going to do it a lot quicker than that because we kind of front-loaded a lot of the work before we actually enroll. Then it goes to an on-site assessment, which eventually leads to the commission review where they vote and decide whether or not you receive your accreditation. And then finally, it's all about maintenance and reaccreditation. And that is a process that is every 4 years. So every year after the initial accreditation, they audit your policy, 25% of your policy, and they audit the rest of the 25% the next year, then 25% more, then 25% more, till after 4 years they do another on-site. And from there they re-award you your accreditation, and you continue with the process from there. So does anybody have any questions about CLIA or what I went over? I know I went over it quickly.
When do we start this initially?
So the enrollment?
When did CLIA first hit Belmont in any way?
First hit it?
That's a chief question.
So I had in my mind when I came in the door 3 years ago that we were going to move to CLIA, but there was a lot of work that had to be done.
Yep.
Staffing, we revamped our whole entire policy, 130 policies. That's not counting other procedures and forms and things like that. So we redid our whole policy in CLIA before we ever started the process. We wanted to be ahead of the game. Some people knew what was going on, most did not, because I didn't want to scare them to death. So I started the process and moving towards that. So we actually, last year, really got into saying, moving everyone forward and saying, we're going to be going to CLIA, everyone buckle down, get ready, here we go. So, and Bill, we changed his status last year to our police analysis research person as opposed to a staff assistant. So it changed his structure because there's a lot involved when you're dealing with the policy and the CLIA process. It's what really designates you as a professional organization. You know, we went through for the newer council members, last year we went through the risk assessment with North Carolina leading municipalities. And they determined that we follow best practices in the Belmont Police Department, which is this kind of the state's version of CLIA. And it got us a 14% reduction on our liability insurance here with the city. Good. So when that organization recognizes us having best practices, that's what we want to continue to follow that. We want to be the best of the best here. We want to serve our citizens the best. We want to protect the liability of the city. We want to protect ourselves. And, so knowing you follow the best practices, not just statewide, but nationally. That's what we're
internationally, actually. They had a lot of Mexican delegates too, and Canadian delegates.
I'll just set you up here because I talked to Adrian about this a little bit. So when I read the efficiency study and it said that the police department doesn't have any standards that they follow or metrics, would you agree or disagree with that?
I strongly disagree. They maybe should have done a little more research. I was highly offended by that. I think I've followed a lot of processes, and I will put our police department against any around here. So, yeah, I did not agree with that efficiency study. And this is evident. We had just received an award right before that of being efficient and effective in following best practices. So.
Just wanted to give you a chance.
Okay. And you know me, I'm going to take it. No, I'm all about, I would not introduce, if we had anything we were not transparent, I would not introduce the League of Municipalities to come in and to do a thorough check of our agency to see if we're following best practice. And I surely wouldn't go internationally to ask them to come in and tell us if we're doing things the right way, if I had a concern. So we obviously are not perfect, but we strive to do the best we can. And we have a great staff, and as I was able to share with someone the other day, we have a lot of highly educated and trained individuals in the Belmont Police Department that I think really goes unnoticed. Maybe people have some old mentalities about Belmont, but they're not there. They're not here anymore.
Speaking for myself, I'll tell you, I think you guys have done a terrific job. The people you've hired, the quality of the people that you've hired have been tremendous as far as that goes.
We have a great community, and I can tell you from the staff, from the city council, we've had a lot of support from the manager, and that makes the difference to get the proper people we need in place to move us forward. Because it's beneficial to the whole community when any of our departments are successful, and that's what we work towards.
Our crime results have come down too, haven't they?
We're going to discuss that in just 1 second.
So Chief, there are a lot of police departments within Gaston County. How many of those are CLIA accredited?
2.
The 2 others.
The Gaston County Police and the City of Gaston Police Department.
So the agencies our size are not? No. So we would be the first?
That would be correct. And Bill was kind of making light of it. I'm a very demanding person. And so when he said it takes 3 years and I said 3 months, so the lady kind of laughed, and then we told her all of our policies have already been changed. She said, "Oh, okay, so we're way ahead of the curve."
We're ahead of the curve, and
Bill and Tyler are my powerhouses. They really are. These guys work. Their whole staff works really hard. It takes a group effort, but those guys are really great. What they do, they're really sharp.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
All right, thank you.
Now let me get this so I can actually see. Yeah. Okay, a couple of things. I know the City Council received the annual report, and I'm not going to go through that whole report. You can see it. There's just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. I know I hear a lot about the traffic situation in Belmont. We have traffic. We have some issues. No one can deny that. But sometimes I hear, well, why don't the Belmont Police Department stop any vehicles? And one of the things, their total traffic stops last year, or to date, actually, and this, we had a couple of months that's not included in here. We had 3,754 traffic stops. That's a lot of cars being stopped. And another thing that's real significant is traffic collisions. In 2018, we had 1,313 traffic collisions total across the city. This year, we had 966 of them. Now, I can tell you the significant difference in a lot of that is I-85, in which I will share with you. So, in 2018, on I-85 southbound personal injury, we had 34 collisions, and then in 2019 we had 11.
Causing personal injury.
I'm sorry, personal injury collisions. And then property damage, we had 286, and this year we had 92. So you see the reduction from 34 to 11, and then 286 to 92. Now I know that people are not happy about 85 slowing down, but the issue is, out there, we still had crashes, but we had high-speed crashes. And people were losing their lives, and they were being critically injured. So I know it makes you move slower, but it makes a difference. That pattern has been an issue for a long time. So I hear people complain about it all the time, but this right here is the difference in the numbers. And that's not counting what Charlotte deals with as well. So, but these numbers have been reduced dramatically. So those are just a couple of numbers that we've been talking about. We talked to DOT because what we would see is when that traffic pattern changed, they were not fender benders, they were not rear end slower stop collisions where people hit each other in the rear end at 20 miles per hour. They were crossing over at 70 and 80 miles per hour and striking other vehicles. And vehicles were overturned. Then there was multiple crashes after that. So I get it. I drive through there regularly just to see how fast. But the last 5 times that I did it, it took me from where the 485 interchange comes on to 85. It took me 5 minutes from there to the McCampbell exit every time. It's 5 minutes that it's cost me. So that if that's significant to saving someone's life, then I'll take 5 minutes slower. And I get it, if there's a wreck somewhere, I don't care where you're, it's gonna slow you down. So that's just a little bit of, and I know everyone's not gonna agree with me because it slows people down, and if they're not moving fast, you're moving pretty steadily, so if you're not moving fast, it's aggravating. I know I'm not a patient person, but y'all can't answer. I'm not a patient person, but I get it. So anyway, but I wanted you to see the reduction in the collisions on 80, and what it's meant to us, and what it means to the city, because the time we're not out on 95 and dealing with car crash and putting our officers' lives in danger with cars doing 60 and 70 miles per hour past us while we're investigating collision, we have more time to spend in our city protecting our city. So that's a big deal for us.
It shows you southern drivers are better than northern drivers because there's less accidents.
I'm not going to get into that, man. I'm going to refrain from that.
Chief, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Did we request the realignment on 85, or did the DOT bring that to us?
We have been asking for it for a long time, the realignment.
Okay, good.
And so they finally got together and talked about it, and they thought it was, the only thing I've asked additional is that they put signage on the roadway way back saying this is an exit only lane, so people don't merge over. So we've asked for them to do that, and that would be the only.
It's in such a habit of always doing that, even after they realigned it, like for a couple months, I was just mindlessly, oh crap, I gotta go.
Yeah, so but that is something we've been asking for a long time. My first request for Highway Patrol to take the interstate back and leave me out of it. They wouldn't really hear that. So, we haven't given that fight up. But anyway, for now, we wanted to reduce the collisions and keep our people off the interstate for safety, for everyone, for our citizens and our officers and our fire department, who wastes a lot of time out there as well.
With very expensive equipment.
Very expensive equipment, yes.
Yeah.
And everybody loves our firemen more than our police officers. Okay, I was waiting for you, I was going to give them an opportunity.
Working with the lights.
Something else I wanted to discuss just in this report is about drugs. I hear, sometimes about what are you doing about drugs, drug arrests are really a topic that we don't really get into a lot because there's a lot of confidentiality in drugs and arrests and things like that. We don't always put that stuff out there. But just a couple of highlights. This is just our vice narcotics unit, not our patrol guys every day. They had 128 felony drug arrests, 1,034 grams of cocaine, 8,146.6 grams of meth, 87 grams of heroin, 10,264 grams of shrooms, 150 dosage units of LSD. That was just our vice narcotics unit to date. And I think to date, on this particular time, don't get excited, but they've taken in around $55,000, I think it is, but that money's shared with other, because we work with task force and all those things. So we get some of those monies back, which we turn into equipment and things like that. But it's a process. It takes a long time sometimes to get that money back. And we have purchased some equipment this year with some of the drug asset forfeiture money and things. So, but our vice unit, they're out here. You don't always know who they are, but that's the purpose.
Oh, sorry. How do those numbers compare to last year? Just kind of roughly.
That was the same question.
Great minds think alike.
So, I have a report up here from last year. I think the only difference last year was, I think we had maybe 110 felony arrests. Could you pull it up and I'll move on to something else? I'll come back to that question. Just pull up the report from last year. And there's a lot of variables in the whole drug thing. Some years it may be more than others, some months it's more than others. It just depends on something for that. And I'm speaking to this group like everyone's known the whole process, but when I started in Belmont a few years ago, we did not have a traffic division, we did not have a vice narcotics, we did not really have a detective bureau. So I've reinstated all of those things. Yeah. And our vice unit is made up of one full-time person and two part-time retired vice narcotic agents from the City of Gastonia Police Department to bring 60 years of experience with them. Yeah. So, and we started on federal task force to work with the drug task force. So that's, and you can find that and we'll actually come back to that. in the report that the council got, so far, it's probably going to be around 38,000 or 37,000, but this year to date, we've answered almost 33,000 calls for service to date. And in those numbers, what is really good and what, to me as a chief, says a lot about the training we do. We focus a lot on de-escalation training. We focus a lot on community policing tactics. And out of 33,000 calls for service, we had to use force twice. And all those encounters with our citizens and calls for service, we had to use force twice.
That's not too many.
And we also had 2 formal citizen complaints.
Are they the same ones or different?
Those two, they were actually different complaints, but we have not had a founded complaint that, and we do a very thorough, and we investigate every complaint. Anonymous, no matter what, we investigate every single.
Does that just go to you, or does that go to Adrian?
I'm sorry?
Does that just go to you, a complaint, or does it go against Adrian?
Sometimes it comes to the, that stuff comes to us formally.
But is Adrian made aware of them?
No, not unless they're serious, matter. I mean, we stay in constant communication about the state of the police department, but yeah, if it was a serious matter, yes. But most of what we get is, well, I don't feel like I was speeding, that officer wrote me a ticket. And I said, well, you're not guilty. That's just saying you're charged. The court of law would determine you're guilty. So that's, if the officer was rude or violated a policy or something like that, that's the investigation. So we do fill some of those complaints.
Same number for this, but that was all of your business consideration.
Yes, okay, so yes, the number for the felony drug arrest last year was 128, that was for the whole year. This right here is shy a couple of months.
This is through the end of October?
Yes.
Okay.
And, yeah, and then the cocaine.
We did in pounds last
Yeah,
year?
we did pounds. Last year we had 9 pounds of cocaine valued at $407,000. So I'm not sure how that breaks down in grams if we have any. Last year it was 10 pounds of meth, which was valued at $679,000, and 5 pounds of heroin valued at $339,000. Seized 4 cars. We've actually seized, I think, 10 cars this year. And last year was $57,300 cash. So the numbers are...
So like 9 pounds is like 4,000 grams, roughly.
So, yeah.
Cocaine.
About 3,000 more grams last year of cocaine, so maybe we're deterred.
Big bust.
Are people smoking mushrooms? Is that what they're doing?
They do a little bit of everything.
They looked at you, Bill.
I was going to say...
I like how they're called shreds.
That's right.
Yes.
I have one other question.
Yes,
when
sir.
you define use of force, is that like someone or one of your officers actually pulling their weapon?
Well, use of force encompasses if we have to use hands-on techniques, maybe it's a fist strike or a strike. If it's a taser, pepper spray, aspeton, firearm, any of those kind of use of.
What were these two? There's only 2. You should.
Those 2 use of forces? Well, one of them was actually a taser, and the other one, I think, was an officer had to actually tackle a guy to a thing down. But
I thought only 2 might stick out in your memory there.
yeah, those, like I say, they're really our folks. I mean, and we may have to use any kind of force. We deal with some crazy things, but we really like to try to de-escalate things, and that's not always possible. We deal with some difficult people. But I feel like our officers are very reasonable in dealing with our citizens.
That's commendable, though. It really is.
I don't want to jinx it here tonight. I want to move on from that.
Sorry I said anything.
Well, we deal with, you don't know, you deal with crazy stuff. Let's see. If there was any other questions about the report, the crime data, we did get back the index crime report from State Bureau of Investigations, and overall our index crimes, which means our violent crimes, all those things, have tremendously reduced from about 700, and I'm going to pull the number, just a ballpark, it was like 750 something to 570 something this year, and I thought I had that paper with me, but that's pretty significant overall, and I know that there's a thought process that violent crime has gone up, And that's just not what we're seeing. It could climb this year, but that's not what we're seeing. Now, we have seen an increase in property crime nationwide, and a lot of that is due to vehicle break-ins and people leaving their vehicles unsecure, leaving their laptops, cell phones, and we constantly tell people, don't do that, but they do it. And they leave their garage doors open, people come in their garages and take things. Those are that makes up for a lot of the larcenies and Walmart.
Yeah.
Can't leave Walmart.
Let me ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
Your average high-priority response time is shown as 5 minutes, 5 seconds. How does that compare to when we were doing local dispatch? Is that higher, lower?
Well, I'm not sure because that happened prior to me, but I can tell you that number is skewed. I'm glad you brought that up. Because that number is from the time the call was received. That was, I know that was an issue with a couple break-ins we had here. I went back and looked. That is from the time the call was received to dispatch, and from the time the officer actually got the call, they were on the scene within a minute. So there is a little breakdown there from the time that officer actually responded. So to answer that question, I'm not sure what the response time is, but our average response times, I think would be a little bit lower than that, but
Is there any way to find out what they were prior to going to the unified dispatch?
I would have to see if any of that data even still exists, because like I say, that was prior to me coming in.
Or if it ever existed.
Oh, yeah, or if it ever existed.
Well, I mean, understand, okay, from the time the officer gets the call, he's on scene pretty quickly. So 3.5, 4 minutes of that or more is from the time the call goes in to the unified dispatch, and when they call you and or they dispatch the officer directly, there seems to be some lag time there.
There is, so this is the best way I can explain that, and I'm not minimizing anyone's dispatch procedures or anything like that. There are agencies who have communications, and this is where I will commend larger agencies and like the county communications. There's a lot better professional process that takes place, and they're better equipped to handle major events and calls, rather than me hiring. Tyler was a telecommunicator, and Tyler can tell you that the professionalism and the processes, and it's gotten very complicated and very difficult, and it costs a lot of money. And once you consolidate, here's the other thing, people ask me all the time, could we ever get our dispatch back? And the answer to that would be pretty much no. The state will not issue permits out anymore, because once you consolidate, you've lost that permit. You've lost that license, and that's where you're at with that. So, but there's a lot of, I can hire Johnny down the road to come in and answer a phone and dispatch out an officer, but there's a lot of liability in that communication center. And so there's a process, and when they're asking all those questions, it seems like a delay. This is the best way I can explain it. If you call in and you say, I need an officer out here and I need them now, and they dispatch an officer and I get there and I get shot. Well, that dispatcher didn't do due diligence to say, well, why do you need an officer? Are there any weapons in the house? Who else is there? Is the offender there? There's a process. There's a call taker that's taking a lot of data, a lot of information. They're giving CPR instructions. They are helping people deliver children. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So the old dispatches that used to exist, that's why they're trying to get away from that and consolidate them into a better house situation. Yes, you got there, sometimes you got to call quicker. I've been on both sides of that. But there's a lot of liability in the communication center.
Well, I agree, not to be a dead horse, but that's your average time, so I mean, that's indicating there's some response times that are define that average, that are quite higher, and then there's some that are lower, but a lot can happen in 5 minutes, so.
It can.
That's concerning. I mean, can you, as a dispatcher, telecommunicator, do you have any handle on what our time frame was from the time the call came in, you dispatched it, and someone was on site?
So it was a different process, because a lot of times, whenever I dispatched here in Belmont, I was by myself. So I took the call and I was dispatching. So you may have a little bit quicker, but just like the chief said, you've got to, explain that process as far as you take the call, you're going to dispatch the call, and you update them. They're doing the same thing there, but whoever receives that call at the county, sometimes that's the person that's dispatching, but sometimes they're in it, and then there's somebody real time dispatching that call based on that information. By the numbers, I mean, it really doesn't seem like it's that much different, but I will say one reason that number more than likely is higher, that you may have a call that comes in that somebody is calling simply for information, for an officer to be dispatched to it. If we're tied up on everything, it may take 10 or 15 minutes to call somebody for information. So that could skew that number to make it seem higher, if that makes any sense. But, I mean, typically you're looking, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but on a call take for a regular call, you're looking at 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes that it usually takes to get the information out in order to dispatch it safely and accurately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would account for some of that, and then, I mean, I have no doubt saying we're there within, 1 minute, 2 minutes max for pretty much anything, especially high priority calls.
Sure.
Yeah.
And something I have not experienced since I've been here is on an emergency call that the officers were not there fast enough. That is something I haven't experienced, is that, you know the old saying, right, that people that complain on us for not getting there quick enough simply complain on us for speeding. So, either way, you can't win that situation.
Yeah.
So, all right, other questions about those? Good questions.
Do you see significant variations based on the time of day? Like, does rush hour affect these numbers much at all, or?
You're talking about response time?
Yeah, sorry, about response time.
No, not really, because if we need to get somewhere, we're gonna get there. We can get through traffic, pretty good, especially if it's an emergency. I mean, we try not to always run our lights and siren, but if we need to, we can get through there. Yeah, of course we got. Other questions? Okay, move to the training and certification. I thought he was having.
Yeah, you have to do everything.
This is something I wanted to discuss is Belmont Police Department currently has, I'll show you, there's 2 slides there. We currently have 11 in-house instructors. 10 of those instructors are full-time officers with the police department, and one of them is one of our reserve officers. And in those instructors, we have specialized firearms driving, de-escalation training, taser, use of force. We cover just about every area with our instructors. So the amount of officers we have, of those, we have 11 in-house instructors to teach all the different topics. And I was talking to you about the training that we receive at the police department and what sets us apart from a lot of agencies, I think, but also to have 11 instructors is pretty significant. When I was with the Gastonia Police Department,
that's pretty good.
First, we didn't have anywhere near that. So I think as an instructor, there's a lot of things that's important. One is you're a teacher. You need to be, we need to have a lot of people that can teach, and a lot of our supervisors are instructors, and all of our supervisors are going to be instructors. But 4 of our 5 command staff are instructors.
That's good.
I know Captain Falls here, we're both driving instructors. He's a driving instructor and a firearms instructor, and he's a force instructor, rapid deployment for active shooter stuff. So we have a lot of staff that's highly trained in our police department.
Good.
And so some of that training we do is crisis intervention training. I don't know, that's been a big topic across America. And the 21st century policing, the best practices basically by the President's task force came out. There were 6 pillars, and a lot of that talked about officer wellness and crisis intervention. We have all but I think 3 of our officers now that are certified in crisis intervention.
That's good.
They have been through the 40-hour class. That's very impressive, and that's about de-escalating, dealing with people with mental health issues, trying to de-escalate those situations and calm those down. So that's very impressive. Verbal judo, which is another de-escalation. Racial intelligence training. Captain Joe Quinn and I are both racial intelligence training engagement instructors, and that deals with emotional intelligence and de-escalation. Tactical seatbelt training. Might sound crazy, but a lot of police officers across America don't wear their seatbelt. And the reason they don't is because they said, they don't get trapped inside their car, which is a real threat. You can get ambushed. We teach them how to very quickly and tactfully get out of their car. We teach them to wear their seatbelts. If you ever see a Belmont police officer without their seatbelt on, you contact me immediately, and I'll correct that. I'm a huge advocate of seatbelts, and my officers are going to set that standard out here for people to wear their seatbelts. Stop sticks and driver training, we do driver training every year, and we have the in-house driving instructors. Our body cam training is mandatory, something we do. We don't just utilize body cameras, but we actually train the officer on it. The rapid deployment active shooter, that's unfortunate, it's something that we have to train for, but we do a lot of active shooter, and I know Captain Falls, Captain Quinn, who else? Don't we have another active shooter instructor? Okay. So they are active shooter instructors, they've done a lot of training in that. Customer service to emotional intelligence, that's a lot of training that we do. And then all of our supervisors have, or most of our supervisors have completed the North Carolina League of Municipalities, all of them on that one, and they've all completed that training. We had a new one, that's why I asked that, a new supervisor, maybe not, but that's the training where we went through the risk assessment. And the advanced and intermediate certificates, we have, I think, 12 officers now in our department that have their advanced law enforcement certificate, which is the highest certificate you can achieve in law enforcement.
That's good.
And clear accreditation manager training, our regular state mandated training, disability awareness training, we deal with that with people with autism and all those things to recognize those signs. Very significant training. Dangerous crossroads ahead, protecting people's rights to carry firearms and to have freedom of speech and all those things. Collision avoidance, we're trying to teach our people not to have crashes. It's right for them not to crash. Conduct training. We teach conduct constantly, our code of ethics, and our CLIA policy training, and then every year we train in TASER OC and also our intoximeter training. Something I reported to the council, when I came in, we had just a few people that was intoximeter certified. Now every officer is intoximeter certified.
Good.
Where that makes a difference is, what happened before, if an officer arrested a DWI driver, another officer who was certified had to come off the road and go to do the test with them. Then they had to go to court with them. So now we're costing the city twice the amount of money. So now all the officers are certified, they can go alone and they don't have to have two people up in court. Trying to save the city money. I know the manager appreciates that, and Michelle. So, but that's just some of the training we've done, and a lot of that training that you see right there, some of it's been, out-of-house training, but a lot of it's in-house because we have the instructors to be able to provide that training. So I'm very proud of the training there. I know that's not the prettiest people there, but we get the job done.
They don't smile very well.
So, we don't smile a lot because Adrian don't allow us to smile.
Bill and Tyler are smiling.
Yes, they smile.
We civilians smiling.
He's smiling because he thinks this is about over. That's why he's smiling. Because he was at the last council meeting until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was in Raleigh, so. But I just wanted to give you an overview. There'll be a more comprehensive report come out at the end of the year that has a lot more detail in it, and it will have the last couple months. But I just wanted to share this in December, just kind of give you an idea, since we're going into the CLIA, we're really deep into that process, and I just wanted the council, especially with the new council, just kind of see what we're doing. I know there's a lot of things said out that, is the police department doing this, is the police department doing that, and you never know what you're doing on social media. I get up every morning to look and see what we're doing, but I know what we're really doing, and I encourage the council, if you ever have a question, if we're doing something that's not acceptable, then I'm happy to sit down with the manager and we will discuss that and take care of it. But I always like the opportunity to explain ourselves and what we do, because I feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that's all I ask of the citizens. And
I believe your report was very enlightening to us, because I think we learned a lot about what you have to go through and go up, and you've done a great job, Mr. Chief, and the department itself has done a great job.
The staff does a great job.
We really appreciate that.
Chief, let me ask you
appreciate that.
one last quick question. How is the retention? At one time, we had a retention problem. Are we retaining folks now?
We are. We have actually been very fortunate. I think we lost a couple of people that had to move for family issues, move out of state or move other parts of the state and out of state for, it's family members taking jobs other places. We've lost one person to another agency, and that was to Charlotte recently. It's hard to compete with what they pay. But I'll refrain from, you'd much rather work in Belmont. We have a wonderful city here. But everyone, that people are going to have, but overall, our retention has been great. I don't want to jinx that either. But I can tell you, that is in large and part of the council supporting us and making sure that we have the pay, the training, the equipment to do our job. And I appreciate the council supporting that, because it's tough. It's tough to retain people. And, I feel like we do a lot to take care of our employees, but you also have to pay them and equip them. You got to train people, equip them, and pay them to do the job appropriately. So this council's been very supportive manager of that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Next, we have our reports.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't go through all these, but the minutes from the Tourism Authority, the Downtown Belmont Development Association, the Environmental Sustainability Board, the Historic Preservation Advisory Board, Main Street Advisory Board, Planning and Zoning Board, and Public Works Committee's meetings from the previous month are included in your packets just for reference to the, what's going on at the various citizen advisory boards that you appoint. So please feel free to ask if you have any questions about what's going on those boards, and we'll refer those to the various staff that work those committees and boards. For the manager's report, I've included a list of our Christmas events and our holiday events. We had a really nice tree lighting ceremony prior to the meeting, and I think that's the biggest crowd I've seen so far at that.
Huge crowd.
The weather's going to be nice tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have the biggest crowd ever at the Christmas parade at 3:30 p.m. I've got a note here that the Public Safety Committee, which now consists of council members Schrift, Seelinger, and Stowe, will need to meet at some point, hopefully in December if you're available, to review a request from the Homeowners Association of Eagle Park for speed limit changes and some parking changes. So I'll ask.
Always Eagle Park.
They're a needy group. And I stay out of all of that.
I know, I bet you do.
I just wear a hat while my dog. So I'll ask the clerk to coordinate with the members of that committee and then to hear their request. We are closed 3 days for Christmas and then January 1st for the New Year holiday. And we were planning to have the City Council Planning Retreat January 17th and 18th at the Whitewater Center. You sent a note that you may not be available that weekend, so we'll see if there's a weekend that works. If we want to I want everybody to be there, but if we have to move it into February, that's fine, but that's getting into tax season for the mayor. We'll see if there's any flexibility with those dates. But please let me know if there's specific topics that you want to cover for that. And that's all I have for the managers.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to need to do interviews for vacant citizen advisory board positions coming up?
Thank you. Yes, so we will have the seat on the planning board and board of adjustment that you served on or resigned from, and from the Parks and Rec board that you served on or resigned from. We have advertised those. I think those are due end of this week, maybe. Yeah, so we'll probably have those in January. Okay. It's going to be really hard to schedule that later this month, so we'll schedule that for January. That's all that I have.
That's all, okay. All right. Anybody would like to go ahead and say anything on other business? We'll start out with Ron.
Yeah, just a few things. One, I spent last week in my hometown. Interestingly, the Main Street director from my hometown, she's probably about 25 and works there part-time. It's a part-time position, but they just received a $1.8 million grant from the state of Pennsylvania to do some work. And it's interesting to see kind of where we're at versus where they're at. One of the ways they're going to spend the money is to give it to, it's a borough there, to hire a code enforcement officer. Because right now, their whole downtown district, people just do what they want because there's nobody there to enforce it at all. And so it's just quite interesting. So we spent a great deal of time. Her cousin lives in Charlotte and has been out here to visit me a few times, and that's how we got connected. But it's kind of interesting. We talked about the 4 points: the promotion, the organization, the design, economic revitalization. And they don't have chair people for all of those, and so it's just kind of interesting. So I'm actually going to connect the two of you to maybe communicate. They're looking for ways to spend money. This money that they were able to receive into reinventing their downtown, which is actually has better bends than we do because it's an older town.
What city is that, Ron?
Somerset, Pennsylvania. It's about 6,000 people. I'm not going to say it's depressed, but it's really a turnpike exit that really supports a lot of it. But the buildings in downtown, they're early 1800s, so everything there's older. It's all still standing, and so hopefully they'll have some good work. But I just thought that was interesting. That's my first experience connecting with another community that far apart, working on some of the same things we're doing, but working on it on a different level. I am a little sick here tonight, so I do apologize for coughing and appreciate it. I want to welcome Mark and Jim. Good luck. Hope you guys enjoy it, and if I can be of any assistance to you, please let me know. And then, ironically, as the Chief Hawkins was speaking tonight and thinking about, one of my first meetings after I got elected, we were at a very different spot with the police department at that point, and it was an eye-opening thing for me because you think you're talking about budgets and planning and zoning, and we were tackling some very different issues than I ever even thought would exist. And so, for me, it's just awesome to look back 6 years from now and look at the good decisions we made, the bad decisions we made, and just where we're at today. It all worked out for the best. So, good deal.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
Richard?
I would like to welcome Mark and Jim to council as well. Congratulate Martha on her win and being re-elected. And also recognize Ron and Doug. They did a great job while on council. I enjoyed serving with them, and I learned a great deal from both of them, and they'll be missed. I got a call from Kelvin Reagan today. He's had a problem with leaf collection on Victoria Blake Drive, and a lot of the citizens there have. He said the truck came by about 4 or 5 weeks ago and then never came back. And people have been calling Waste Pro, creating tickets, and they've been, according to them, unresponsive. And people have been out there bagging their own leaves. I understand they've had some equipment problems, but, the bottom line is their job's to collect the leaves, period. Whether they have to lease a vehicle to get that done, or what do they have to do. I had the same issue on Dogwood Lane. They showed up on a Friday, did one side of the street, and you may remember this.
Yeah.
And it was 4 or 5 weeks before we saw them again. Now, I called these folks and talked to them. They assured me that they would be back, and just offhand, I asked him a question. I said, do you guys not run a route? If you leave because the truck is full, or you leave on Friday, do you not come back to the same spot and begin again? And he said, no, we don't run routes. So I was concerned about that, because I was like, how are you dispatching your trucks and where? You need to have some sort of route. People are paying pretty hefty taxes here, and we need to make sure that these people acting as our agent are delivering on those services. So whatever we have to do to get them out there, and I would strongly suggest that they are responsive to the people that call them and create some kind of route and tell the driver, if you stop here to empty your truck or it's the weekend, then that's where you pick that route back up, so we don't have these lapses.
Yeah.
The next thing I would say, I got a call from Jerry Lynn over in East Belmont. She's got the consignment shop on Catawba, and she was asking, why is the street being closed at 11 a.m. when the parade is not till 3? She said it has a huge impact on their business, and she asked me to pose that question. And I said, I assume it has something to do with the logistics of the parade or parking, but I don't know that for certainty. So I said I would pose that question and get back to her.
So I think we close it for on-street parking. And if I'm not mistaken, she's got a lot of parking behind her building.
Okay.
But no, we've done this since we've moved up the time of the parade, and it has to do with, and feel free to correct me on the logistics, of making sure that there's not cars parked on the street when we need it, so that we don't then have to go in and try to get those cars towed off.
Sure.
When they're parking. And anytime we have an event, it's disruptive, and it's tough. And there's never going to be a perfect time to have a parade, to have a 5K, to have any event in our town. And we are sympathetic to the concerns, particularly of the business owners, because this is a busy time of year for them, and we want them to make as much money as they can. So it's certainly something that we wrestle with, but our job is to make sure this event happens safely and that there aren't cars parked on the street, and to make sure that there's safe places for the spectators as well. And so we realize it's inconvenient, and so we do our best to get the word out early, but we're never going to make everybody happy.
And also, I had gotten a call from Marriott White's Restaurant about the decorations, and I spoke to you about it, and she called me back and said that they were up and that they appreciate that.
Good, thank you.
All right. Jim?
Oh, well, I just want to thank everyone who's, people on, those on council, city staff, who's helped with the transition and getting me up to speed, and I look forward to serving in this role for the next 4 years. And I also want to thank, because he didn't come today, but thank Ron especially. I know Doug was here, and I appreciate everything Doug's done, but Ron, I know, did so much, and never really sought any credit for it, worked behind the scenes, didn't really toot his own horn, but had so much institutional knowledge and did so much for the city, and even reached out to me, to give me some of his old council materials to sort of help me understand better some of the things that have gone on in Belmont. And so, I just think that his institutional knowledge and work on behalf of Belmont is going to be missed. And I know I'm told he doesn't like to hear those types of things said about him, but I wanted to say them anyway, because they're true.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, Dallas Cowboys are not playing tonight, so I don't mind holding Adrian from...
No, that means they're not going to lose.
Just kidding.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll leave you alone 4 years.
Go ahead, Martha.
If you want to know something about Ron Folk, you can look at my Martha Stover City Council page, because I did write about him, and he was actually impressed. We've lost somebody on the council, but he'll still be very much behind the scenes doing projects at the park, getting the basketball court like he did, those kind of things.
Trimming the hedges at the school.
Trimming the hedges at Belmont Central, because that's not happening. So a lot of things like that, most of us did not realize. And my comments tonight were edited by Ron Folk. If I had to start paying him a consulting fee, because his standard thing to me was I going to be emotionally neutral, or did he need to take a nerve pill? And on occasion, I would tell him he probably should take a nerve pill, because he's much more analytical and thorough, and has worked in government, and most of us have not. So it's a whole different skill set that you have to have. So since he is not the kind of guy to want all that commendation, I appreciate that they're getting that too. Thank you.
I don't have too much to add, just appreciate the reception I received from everybody, and looking forward to working with the council and everybody here on serving Belmont. So if anybody has any questions for me or wants to talk about anything, just let me know. I'm trying to be as accessible as possible, so you know where to find me.
I'd like to add one thing real quick. We're very blessed to be in Belmont, because we got such a great town. The people in this town will make this town so great, You may have contentious elections and so on and so forth, but whatever the case may be, but the fact is we try to come together and get along. That's so important to do that, because you can't accomplish anything with one person. You've got to have all five working together, and these guys hopefully will do this. Ask God to bless you and your decisions that you make. I think it's very important that we move on and do some good things for the city.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, there's some ambiguity about this subject, but I think it's better practice to have incumbents sworn in as well as newly elected officials. So before we adjourn, I'd like for Ms. Stowe to come down.
Sure, absolutely.
I, Martha Stowe, do do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as council person, so help me God. Audit.
Very good.
That says council minutes, so we're technically not in violation.
Yeah.
It's an old statute.
I'm just glad we got our committees appointed. That's what I like. I think that's a pretty good thing. All right.
And we do have a closed session here.
We have a closed session here. We have a motion to go into closed session. Can I get a motion to go into closed session? Motion. Got a motion, got a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're now in closed session.
Give me 1 minute, I'll take care of
Police report is underneath it. But I'm glad he did that, because I think we needed to know what's going on right there.
Gleam in my parents' eye.
One can't talk and one can't walk.
No, Raleigh.